There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, your home for deer hunting news, stories, and strategies. And now, your host, Mark Kenyon.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kenyon, and this is episode number 158. Today in the show, we are joined by a couple of my friends out in Montana, Sitka Gear's Garrett Long and Matt McCormick, and we're discussing some of their most memorable whitetail hunting stories, photography, and conservation. All right, folks, welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast brought to you by Sitka Gear. And today in the show, we're going to be joined by my friends Garrett Long and Matt McCormick from Sitka Gear. And Garrett manages Sitka's conservation-related activities, and Matt manages the Sitka Ambassador Program, along with being a professional photographer. And this chat actually was recorded last week while I was in Bozeman, Montana for Sitka's Converge event. And when we get those guys on, they'll give you the full scoop on what that event was all about. But as far as the conversation we had, I think you're really going to enjoy it. We got into some pretty entertaining whitetail hunting stories that I really enjoyed. And we also talked conservation and photography and a whole lot more. So it's going to be some good stuff. You're even probably going to hear some shotgun blasts in the background of this one, I think, because we were recording this episode during the range day, which was an outside event, and there was a whole lot of shooting and other activities going on. So made for a pretty unique podcast setting, I guess. But before we get to that, I did want to catch up with that man you heard laughing. He is my good buddy, my co-host, and a Yukon Cornelius impersonator, Dan Johnson.
You're kind of a butthole sometimes, but you know how I used to talk to you about you having like weak facial hair?
Yeah.
I saw a picture of you the other day, and you're not so much a rookie pitcher anymore. You're starting to get past that to, I'm not going to say a wily veteran yet, who knows how to throw the wicked sliders, but you got it. Your goatee game is coming up a couple notches.
I appreciate you saying that. Every day I'm just willing it into existence, hoping that please, just one more whisker.
You do any just for men treatments?
No, but
No.
I've wondered if that would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a ways to go, but slowly but surely I'm becoming a man, Dan. It's happening.
Yep.
So, yeah, how you been?
You ask me that every week, and it's pretty. My life at times is boring. It's full bore, or it's pretty slow. And I don't know. Since the last time we talked, it's been full bore husband father duty, and not so much whitetail related stuff. But I got a date finally scheduled. The weekend after the 4th of July is going to be one of my work weekends where I get to go back down to the farm, set up my tree stand, change my trail cameras, and do just do a lot of work basically that needs to be done.
Nice. Well, that's good. You got in the calendar, lockdown, definitely going to happen. So sometimes that's what you have to do, because it's so easy for life just to all of a sudden pop up and you got this thing, you got that thing, and then before you know it, all the things you thought you were going to get done in the month of June, all of a sudden June's gone.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I can even relate to that. I feel like where'd the time go? There's so much to do still. So
Right.
I feel like there's some days when we get on the podcast and like even before we start recording, I'm like, how you doing? And there's those days when you're like pissed. There's like the days where you're really stressed about something happening at work. There's the days when you're like super jacked about deer. And then there's the days like today where today I just feel like you feel like like exasperated, like just like kind of tired. Is that how you're feeling? Am I picking up the right thing?
Dude, I tell you what, yeah, I'm a little tired, but it's a good kind of tired because I got, I don't know, I had a really fun weekend with a family. We had our annual wild game feed, and we basically ate all the animals that we killed and caught throughout the 2016 year. You know,
Nice.
we got fish, you know, bluegill, walleye, bass, crappies. We ate deer. We ate turkey, and so we ate those. Those were the main dishes this year. In the past, we've had turtle. I guess we did have frog legs this year. We've had some pretty unique things over the course of some of these wild game feeds, but it's a family tradition now, and it's just an awesome time for the family to get together and just have a good time. Whoa, forgot to put the phone on. Right. Anyway,
That's a
yeah.
rookie move, Dan.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, man. I all the editing that's going to have to happen now because of that.
Oh no, screw editing. We're keeping that. I like to embarrass you. How'd you guys cook that venison?
It was we cooked it real slow in some olive oil. I believe there was some teriyaki in it, and what else? I think some balsamic vinegar, kind of a mixture of all that stuff, and it turned out really tender. We cooked it for like 8 hours.
Oh wow!
So yeah, it was.
So
it turned out really good.
Like a roast, kind of.
Yep, it was a couple big roasts and some. I don't even know what they were really. Just packaged up, threw it in there with a whole bunch of them. I even think there was I know this is a cardinal sin, but I even think there was a backstrap in there.
Oh.
But it was delicious though, man. It turned out really well.
That's cool. That's a fun
Low
way to
and
get
slow.
the family together and enjoy
Yep.
some wild game. Was that
Did some fishing.
Was it your buck or was it?
I think some of it was. Yep, some of it was my buck, and some of it was some deer from my stepdad. So yeah, it was like a hodgepodge of all the deer that we killed throughout 2016. So
Sweet. That's awesome.
and we had fish fry, and it was I love fish, fried
Oh
fish.
yeah. How'd the fishing go?
We had my family owns a pond. It's just maybe 1 or 2 acres. It's not huge, but it's enough for everybody to get out there and throw a couple lines. We caught a lot of bluegills, and that's something fun where you just throw a line out and let the kids reel it in when the bobber goes under. So basically, that's all that we did there. It was pretty fun.
That's cool. Kids enjoy that?
Oh yeah,
Dude,
yeah,
I saw you had the little man out shooting a bow
yeah.
or trying to shoot a bow
trying
or
to shoot a bow.
holding a bow maybe.
I was doing it with my daughter, and there's this bow. If I help her get it past the heaviest part, she can hold it at full draw, and then I'll hold the riser grip, and her hand will be underneath mine, and she'll be able to let it go. And she really liked doing that. Right.
That's
There's
awesome.
still some help. She's not old enough to pull it back and knock all that stuff by herself. But it was just kind of like an introduction. We were at about 5 yards, and it was just fun. I saw in her eyes that she really liked it, and she asked about it again last night. So it might be time to get a small kid's bow for my daughter.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
My niece, I think she's 6 or 7 now, and we got her a bow for her birthday last year, I think, like a little kid's bow.
Yep.
And then she really has gotten it into it. And then for Christmas, we got her like a nice like block target. And she like, whenever I come over, like first thing she does, she runs upstairs, she grabs her quiver and her bow, and she comes out. She's like, "Can we shoot? Can we shoot?"
Awesome.
So it's been so cool, like seeing her really get into it. And she practices when I'm gone. So when I come back, she's like, "I'm better now, Mark. I'm better now." So it's so much fun. It's super cool. So I'm excited. I think that it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what kind of interest she has in hunting, because she really loves shooting right now.
Right.
And she also loves animals. Like, she's a big animal lover. She's always like finding little birds or a mole or something and like trying to save its life and all that kind of thing. So it might be a little bit tough for her, the idea of hunting an animal, but getting them out there shooting is a start. And I think, I've always tried to talk about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and helping her understand that. And definitely her older brother, who is the one I've been taking out turkey hunting and stuff, he's really, I think, showing an interest. So I'm excited to be able to have this opportunity to expose these kids to this. And man, I can see, like, that's what gets me so excited about being a parent someday, is just being able to dabble with this with my nephew and nieces. I can't imagine how cool that's going to be as a father. So
absolutely.
I envy you in that, Dan. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It's kind of funny. Last night, I walk out and I got half of my garden surrounded in chicken wire where the rabbits can't get into it. And then last night I walk out my back door and there's 2 rabbits in the part that's not, and they chewed some of my beans down. Mm-hmm. And I go, Ava, those rabbits ate the green beans you helped plant. And she's like, Dad, we need to shoot them with your bow. And I'm just like a little part of my heart just grew 10 times that day.
She's learning.
I know. And I'm like, well, the neighbors are out, so we can't do it right now. But oh man, that was just like, you know what? That's cool. That's cool that she said that. And and then I said, well, Ava, if we I had to tell her, if we shoot it with a rabbit, it will be dead. You got to teach them that part of it too.
Right.
And then she's like, oh, but we'll have green beans. And I'm just like, yeah, we will have green beans.
And rabbit stew.
And right. Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
So speaking of your garden, keep that garden looking good, because I want you to have that garden really doing well for this fall. And next year even, because I posted on Facebook this weekend some bad news. The news you saw. I, very surprisingly, did not draw my Iowa tag. I've been able to get this tag on this year for now, 6 years or something like that. I've come to expect being able to get it with this number of points, and me and all my buddies have been able to get it with this number of points every year. But this year we didn't. So I guess a lot more people are applying up there, and that's kind of a bummer. But someone on Facebook suggested that I should just move to Iowa, and that you, Dan, could build an addition on your house, and I could live there. So that's kind of my game plan now. I'm moving to Iowa in Dan's add-on. You and me, we could sit on your nice little pretty table on the deck with the privacy fence behind us, and we could record our podcasts, and we could share a garden. So you're saying yeah. So that's a yes. Do you agree to this?
Oh no, I've honestly just been ignoring everything you've said. I just stopped listening after move in because
that's not cool.
Well, I mean, hypothetically, yeah, it could be, but let me talk to honey, Mark and his wife want to move in.
I would just...
and my wife would say, yep, that's fine, but they got to help. They got to help change the diapers. They got to get up in the middle of the night. They got to, they got to go pick the kids up from daycare.
I would love for you to try to say that with a straight face to your wife. Try to act like it was a serious thing. Mark, business isn't going well for Mark. Things have been really tough. They're going to lose the house. He's wondering if they could move in, if they could build off the garage. I know this is tough, Sarah, but for a good friend, maybe we can make it work and just see what she does.
You know what I should try to do is try to record it. I got a little recorder that I can record it and kind of set it act like I'm playing with it.
Right.
And I'll be like, hey, I need to run something by you. You're gonna think this is crazy, but I offered, and then I'll see what she says.
That would be pretty hilarious.
I bet you there's an F word involved.
Yeah, I was going to say we might have some bleeps in there. Oh, man, that would be funny. But yeah, man, I didn't get my Iowa tag, so I am not going to be coming out this year.
Well,
I'm bummed
there's
about
no deer in Iowa really anyway.
Yeah, that's what they say. So I'm kind of figuring out what alternatives I have, if I'm just going to focus on what I got going on in Michigan, Ohio, or because I do have multiple spots in Michigan. I've got 2 tags here too.
Yep.
So might just spend more time on the public land stuff and the northern Michigan property, or maybe, heck, I don't know, maybe try a brand new state. So we'll see. I got to do some thinking about it. But
absolutely,
next year,
some time yet.
Yeah, Iowa 2018.
Yep. The only thing I really have to plan for in the the next like a year from now, in between now and 6 weeks, actually now and 6 weeks after my wife gives birth, is when I'm going to schedule a vasectomy.
Yeah, you got to get that done, dude.
Yeah.
You got to slow things down on a whole baby front.
Yeah, I need to. Yeah, absolutely.
Slow your roll.
Yeah.
Is everything all good on that front, by the way? Sarah's doing well?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Glad to hear.
I want to know about my shit's boring, Mark. I'm just a dad, right? I'm a dad of 2 with a pregnant wife. It's like, hey, we have conversations like this. Did you change Mac's butt? No, I thought you did. No, I thought you said you were going to. No, I didn't. Did you want to do it? Well, I'm kind of busy right now. Can you do it? Yeah, I guess. But you are just sitting in a chair. Well, you're just doing that. Okay, well, I guess I'll do it so we don't argue. Okay, that sounds good. Did you stop and get milk? No, I didn't know we were out of milk. Like conversations like that. That's my life,
riveting stuff.
Yeah, right.
So what do you want to know?
I want to know about your Montana trip.
Dude, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So Sitka put on this year for the first time what they called it Converge, Sitka Converge. Yep. And basically this was like, and I won't go into too much, I can't even explain it very well, but the guys, when we get to that interview, they explain it better than I could. But in short, basically this is like an appreciation event for their guides and outfitters that have been working with Sitka for a long time. So brought together, I don't know, several hundred people, I think. Yep. That are whitetail guides, waterfowl guides, big game guides, Alaska, the Rockies, all over the place. And just had a whole bunch of different events. There were seminars, there were like feedback sessions, there was insight into new products, and then there was a whole bunch of different like kind of just for fun type things. So there was a range day, like I mentioned, where there was like the guys from Matthews Archery were there, and there was a setup to do all sorts of 3D shooting, and then there was like one of those foam target shooters. You ever seen one of these? Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. They shoot these foam targets, and you got to shoot it with like a little flu arrow. So they had those set up. They had a rifle range set up where you could test out some different guns. There was like a ranging setup where they had this competition going where we had to try to guess the range of things just by looking through binos and spotting scopes, and then guess like how far these different 3D targets are. There was a clay shooting setup. I can't remember what else. A whole bunch of stuff like that. So there was that going on. And then there was, what else did we do? There was this whole guide games thing where they had a whole series of different events going on throughout the week. So it included some of those things at range day. And then there was like kind of like a Iron Chef type cook-off event with wild game one day. There were some events that we did on the last day where there was like a waterfowl decoy type competition where you had to set up decoys, tear them down, do all these different things. There was like a backpack obstacle course. You had to do this whole obstacle course with a 40-pound pack on your back and like do all sorts of different things. So eventually all the different guides and outfitters, or a bunch of them, participated in this like week-long series of different challenges. And then there was some like pretty legit prize packages. Like the winner got a new gun, a new bow, like a rifle, a shotgun, a bow, a full Sitka gear system, like all Yeti coolers, like a whole bunch of crazy stuff. It was like thousands and thousands of dollars of pretty sweet swag. Awesome. So yeah, a bunch of stuff like that. There was like events at night, concerts, dinner. So just a really cool gathering of super serious hunters all getting together to kind of celebrate our shared passion, and for Sitka to kind of give back to these people that have been important parts of their community. So it was fun. I got to get some fishing in on the last day.
Saw that.
Yeah, which was awesome. Matt McCormick, who's going to be here with us on the podcast in a second, myself and him, and then Donnie Wilson, who was a guest of ours on the podcast last fall. I don't know if you remember that one, from Ohio. We went and we floated the Madison River, and it was just stupid gorgeous. absolutely beautiful, and didn't catch a ton of fish, but had fun. Hooked into a couple really big ones that I lost, which sucked. But it was just a great day on the water. So it was a busy trip out there, a quick trip, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And every time I come back from that state, I just wonder why I don't live there.
Yeah, amen.
It is beautiful.
I had a day last week where I got home, and instead of doing like podcast work, I went on Google Maps and just looked at the images in the mountains in random states.
Yeah, I can understand why you might do that. It's easy to sit and daydream. I got a friend of mine who's out there actually right now with his family touring like Yellowstone and Grand Teton, and he went to like Badlands National Park in South Dakota, and so he spent like 3 weeks with his 2 sons and wife out there, and it sounds like they are just having a blast. And I think one of these years you got to get the fam out there to do that too.
I think we're gonna try next year, man. We're
really?
Gonna try anyway. Yep.
That'll be
After
awesome.
the baby's born, and we'll see if we can't do like a quick trip to, I don't know. We might have to break it down and drive like 8 hours, stop, drive another 8 hours, like through the night so that the kids are asleep in the car. But we'll figure it out. I think that's the goal anyway.
That'll be cool.
And then I'll never come back.
Well, I'll see you out there then.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know. I'm blanking. There was something else we were going to talk about, but is there anything else you want to cover before we hop to this conversation?
Well, did you want to talk about current events, or did you want to save that for another? Did you want to save that for another podcast?
We can touch on this. There was kind of, and I don't think either one of us are really into like other hunter bashing, but at the same time, I think there are examples of bad apples.
I am into poacher bashing though.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those cases that's being talked a lot about right now on social media. So I think because it's all the buzz right now, it's probably worth at least touching on a little bit. And that's the case of this. This is Bill Busbus, I think is his name. From a whole bunch of different TV shows, and they run a pretty large hunting company. And he was recently convicted of some pretty serious poaching allegations that I think is just really disappointing. It's egregious, the level of what they did. It's disappointing to see from someone in the hunting media, and it gives us all a bad name as hunters, let alone the platform that he had, that this stuff's going out to millions and millions of different people. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you're fiery about this right now. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. I am. This person is, whether or they like it or not, is a figurehead in the hunting community. And even those who are outside of the hunting community see something like this, and it ruins their impression of what hunting is all about and what, being an ethical sportsman is. And this guy shit on that, in my opinion. And by doing that, whether he likes it or not, in some way, shape, or form, somebody who was maybe thinking about becoming a hunter is not going to become a hunter, or B, some kid has to have a talk with his mom or dad, and then that mom and dad is going to have to explain to him that this guy is a lawbreaker. He is not a true hunter. He's not a true sportsman, and that's sad.
Yeah. And I feel like, there's a lot of instances where someone, a well-known figure, gets convicted of some kind of hunting violation, and it seems like, okay, maybe this might have been just a mistake, and I look at these and I try to take them with like a grain of salt and realize, like, all of us, like, there are some pretty complicated regulations, and lots of times it's easy to maybe misstep a little bit here and there. And I can like give free passes a little bit on that when it's a sincere mistake, and you take, I've made a mistake, and you pay your dues and you do whatever you have to do to make up for it and learn from it in the future. But I think this situation was so like blatant that it's something that really got me just so disappointed that somebody would do this, that had the influence that I'm sure he had with people because of his platform. I mean, as I understand it from what I've read, They were out elk hunting on a ranch, and he was after this big bull, and he was shooting multiple times at this bull and was missing it, and then ended up shooting and killing a calf cow elk. And then while he's on this, they had recorded video, so this is very clearly proven. They said, "Oh, we got to get rid of that. We got to get rid of that calf. Make sure to edit that out." And then they ended up shooting that bull eventually after shooting like 4 different times and killing this calf. And they dragged the calf into a ditch and hid it there and left it, and then took the bull and just went on their way. And so that's wanton waste of game. It's irresponsible, I think, just firing off random shots into a herd of elk where you're killing another animal. I mean, it's on a whole slew of things. It's just really a horrible example to be set. And, man, we just can't have that. We can't have that with any hunter, let alone someone who's doing this and talking about it to millions of people. So I'm
and they're the Wild Game Nation TV show. I don't know if you saw this or not, but the Outdoor channel put out a statement, and he himself and the Wild Game Nation TV show has been taken down and will no longer air on the Outdoor channel.
Yeah, I did just see that a second ago.
Yep.
It'll be interesting. I saw they use the word suspended. And it'll be interesting if that's like a temporary suspension and they're going to wait till it blows over and it comes back next year, or if this is donezo. But I would hope, we don't. I don't know. I've my gut instinct on anything like this is always like, we don't know the whole story. I want to be like respectful of like guilty until proven, or innocent until proven guilty. But I'm pretty sure in this situation it's very, very clear. It's very clear that it is guilty.
He got busted.
It's convicted now, and it was an egregious offense. And
he did it previously too. He had other game violations beforehand.
You're right. I forgot about that. So
it's not like this guy's some kind of this is not an accident. This is a poor sportsman who continues to disobey laws. And as far as I'm concerned, he should never have the right to hunt again. So whatever fine he had to pay and his however many year suspension for not hunting is light compared to what it should be, my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. It's just a really disappointing situation. I keep saying that, but it's just it's frustrating to see that kind of thing happening. And I think this is just like this is another wake up call that we like. People need to be held accountable. And we as individual hunters, I think, okay, in this case, it seemed like this is just like bad behavior that keeps repeating.
Yes.
I would say for other people, I would say just when it comes to just game violations in general, just like a reminder to everyone, like really read that stuff in detail, because there are more and more people, like stuff's getting posted on social media all the time. And if you are not paying attention to your regulations, you might mistakenly do some small thing wrong and then share it with the world. And then all of a sudden you're, finding yourself in a world of hurt because of that. So I think the responsibility is on us as the individuals to know everything. And we got to do that. So I'm just finding myself like more and more every year, like obsessively trying to read every detail because, you just can't afford to make a mistake. So this is a great reminder again to don't be that guy, and then also don't make an innocent mistake if you can anyway not. So that's our PSA
Absolutely.
for the day.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure there's going to be more to come on that topic too.
Yeah. It's a bummer to see that. It's a bad, and we actually, Garrett, Matt, and myself go on to talk about this at some point within the episode. I think, if I remember this episode correctly, that it's just so important how we as hunters represent ourselves. And when someone who's supposed to be a representative of us to the outside world on TV, when they're representing the hunting community so poorly, it's bad for everyone. So let's just each of us as individuals try our best to make up for it, I guess, and not be the bad apple. So
that's a fact.
Anything else you want to add, Dan?
You score those sheds yet?
No, I haven't. I just got back so late the other night. I know.
Weak.
I'm gonna try to do. I'm gonna try to do that probably tonight or tomorrow.
Okay.
And then we'll have that. But man, they're awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you again, my friend.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, buddy. Well, let's pause briefly here for our Sitka story, and then we'll let you go, Dan, and we're going to hop over to that previously recorded interview. And here with our Sitka story is Spencer Newharth.
For this week's Sitka story, we're joined by Dylan Tramp, a public land archery hunter, who tells us about how Sitka gear helped turn a day spent on the prairie into his most memorable hunt and biggest buck.
One of my most memorable hunts to date, it was a last fall in western South Dakota on public land DIY archery mule deer hunt with my dad. Got to spend some good time in the field and had a few rough first days. Day 1, day 2, day 3, pretty fruitless. Then day 4, the last day of our hunt, we bumped into a really nice buck on the way in, and about 160 class mule deer buck. And we were getting down on our luck, starting to think it just wasn't in the cards for us this year. So we pushed back a little further today to try to get away from the hunting pressure. And another day striking out. Well, on the way back to the truck, we decided, well, before we head home, let's glass this one last draw before we call it quits, because the direction that buck from earlier that morning had run, and he might just be bedded in there. And anyways, we glassed for 45 minutes. I was about ready to throw in the cards. My dad whistles and says, hey, he's here, he's bedded. And he gets up, and deer rebeds and repositions in the shade. Ends up, it's about 12 o'clock. Just, we know the buck's not going anywhere. We've got him bedded in the perfect ravine with the wind in our face. My dad's up on the hill spotting, pointing me which way to go. He directs me into about 20 yards, and we know this buck's not going anywhere. So I'm getting cozy, relaxing. About 4 hours into it, buck finally gets up, goes right through my shooting lane at 20 yards, right around one big sage bush that gave me some cover, and just couldn't have rode it up any sweeter. It was just good time spent with my dad in the field, and a hunt I'll never forget.
On Dylan's hunt, which took place in western South Dakota, he was wearing Sitka's Equinox system. If you'd like to create a Sitka story of your own, or to learn more about Sitka's technical hunting apparel, visit sitkagear.com.
Okay. I've actually memorized it backwards, though.
Can you do that?
No.
You should start the podcast with that. Him reciting it backwards
Let's
as fast as he can.
Give it to us.
ZXY.
That was, you got to it. All right.
No,
well,
that was 3. That was 3.
Well, we are here, and we've been recording.
Sweet.
We are here at Sitka's Converge event. We are in beautiful Paradise Valley, Montana. And I'm here with Matt McCormick and Garrett Long with Sitka. Can you guys, let's start with Matt. What do you do with Sitka gear? Because you're here, both you guys are heavily involved with what this whole event's about. So I want to hear about this event first. But, Matt, who are you? What do you do here?
So I'm Matt McCormick. I live in Bozeman. I spend a lot of time with the guys over at Sitka, helping with the marketing team and their ambassador teams, managing all 3 categories of their ambassadors. Right now it's at about 120 people.
Wow.
Spread across North America. We have a couple. We have one in New Zealand. We have one in South Africa right now. And we have some in Argentina. We have, they're spread out kind of everywhere. And so it's about, much like this event, it's about getting influencers involved, getting the people that really truly can influence their communities, guides, outfitters, local people, media people like yourself, getting them involved in humanizing this brand in a way that people can relate to, because I just feel like sometimes people get lost in what a brand portrays themselves to be online, and there's a lot that goes into that stuff. And this is a way for us, a program like this and an event like this is a way for us to really connect with people we care about most. So
yeah, something that I've always appreciated about Sitka is that it's a brand that personifies something. There's a brand, and it's not just an image. It's like it's a culture. It's a feel. How would you describe that Sitka something? The brand. I don't know. Tell me what are the feelings or emotions or thoughts that you have about Sitka as a community? as a tribe.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Garrett, we need to introduce Garrett first.
We'll get Garrett first. I want to finish skewering you. First, we're roast Matt. And then Garrett.
This is actually a really good question, and it's something that we talk about at Sitka nearly every day. I mean, there's in every aspect of what Sitka does, from product development and design to an Instagram post that you may see, and everything in between. This question is asked: what are we doing? What is the message? And what it all comes down to is just, it's an overused word, but authenticity is something that we really care about. We're original. We stand for hunters, and that in every aspect. And it's not just about the pursuit; it's about everything else. And
experience.
And Sitka really focuses on the experience, and that's portrayed through all their content and everything. But there's more than just the hunting experience. It's the lifestyle experience. It's the way that you from to and from work. How you drive to and from work is you do it because you're a hunter. You may take the long way around, or you want to check a field, or you want to go just swing
always
through.
Rubbernecking.
Yep, all the time. You can always see, especially waterfowl season, you can see when there's a big field of geese, and you can always tell the hunters because they start swerving all over the road when there's big fields of geese. Mm-hmm. Everybody's rubbernecking, exactly.
Same thing with the whitetails.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so Sitka really, that's what they're about. They're about everything. It's actually very little about the actual harvest and everything, and so much more about everything that goes into it.
Yeah.
And across all three categories today, there's just a huge lifestyle that these hunters are living that is really untold. And those stories and those why people are hunting and what they just everybody's a little bit different, and it's about the whole thing. It's not just about hunting.
I think just to add to Matt and why this event is so great is, Sitka, we're a bunch of outdoor enthusiasts and a bunch of hunters that you come into the office. That's what we're about, right? And we love to be in the outdoors, and we love to be out there for a long time. And
of course.
And so, the gear aspect where that all comes into play is the longer you can be out there, it's generally more successful just because you get to experience nature longer, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes this so fun is the gear facilitates that. Mm-hmm. And then when we have an event like this, we can bring in these guides and outfitters that are really at kind of the spearhead of the industry in a lot of ways, and we can just socialize with them in that aspect,
Mm-hmm.
And we're all hunters and outdoorsmen. We love it.
Heck yeah. So what do you do here at Sitka?
So my position's pretty multifaceted. I work with guides and outfitters on the service side a lot. So trying to see their needs, what they're seeing, because a lot of their feedback is some of the most valuable feedback we get. I mean, day in and day out, right? And then the other aspect is working directly on our conservation efforts, right? And just really trying to move the, I don't want to use the compass, but move us in a direction that looks at conservation in a holistic manner. Rather, a lot of times as hunters, we look specifically at herd management as what we're doing is conservation. So we're looking at how we can tell more of that story beyond just herd management, right?
Awesome.
And so, here again at Converge, we have a Shane Mahoney coming in, right? Who
the legend?
Yeah, and I always say he's one of the best conservationists of our time. It's a privilege to be in his, just to talk with him about it and listen to him, and right there, he's going to give a presentation to guides and outfitters as to what they're doing and how it has purpose within conservation, rather than just simply herd management. There's so much more that goes into it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It is nice to see that a company like Sitka is willing to devote the resources and time of someone like you to focus on something like that. I think that's important for anyone in this industry, that should be a priority. So that's a good thing to see.
Yeah, and I think the awesome thing about it is the brand is willing to support anything that's good for conservation. Mm-hmm. So when that's your end goal, it makes my job really easy, right? Because you always have a brand that's going to back it, and the people in the office are always going to back it.
That is cool.
That's a big deal.
That's a really good thing. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned Converge. You mentioned a little bit of what's going on here, but can one of you guys tell me what this event is? What specifically are we doing here, and what's it for in more detail? Maybe if you want to take a first stab at that, and Garrett, you can expand.
Yeah, of course. Converge is a it's a gathering of all of our guides and outfitters. It was sent out to our entire guide and outfitter program. We worked with WTA. We worked with a couple different organizations to help get the word out there. But what it's all about is showing appreciation to the guides and the outfitters for everything that they do, and help add a little value to their lives. Outside of the gear. We all love this gear. We are very passionate about this gear, and it's changed the way that we live. It's changed the way that we hunt. It's changed the way that we look at hunting. But there's more to it than just that, and it goes back to influence and what we're Sitka is really trying to do is spend more time with these guys and again humanize this brand. So it's bringing them in, adding value to their lives, their businesses, and also just having meaningful interactions with the guys and gals at Sitka Gear, learning a little bit about the product, learning we got partner brands in here. We're sitting here in the Paradise, and we got Benelli over here setting up a booth, and they're going to be doing a bunch of new gun shooting, and we got Kimber. They're going to be shooting new rifles. We got Leopold here. They're going to be showing off some of their new cool stuff, their new Optifade stuff, which is great. So we got Yeti Dennis did a great job yesterday doing a new product review for these guys. It's just really fun, meaningful interactions that we can have with these guys, bringing them all here, showing them what Bozeman is, showing them what Montana is, showing them what Sitka is, where the roots are. This is where we all are. Meet us, and let's go have some fun. And that's why we're out here. We're a little bit early, and so we've shot those shotguns, and we're getting things set up and having fun.
The whole time me and Josh were talking earlier, we're like just about to get to a really good point, and then boom, and we're shook out of our conversation.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about
all
that.
Your fault, man.
Yeah, waterfowl hunters.
You guys.
Yeah, so that's why we're here. We're here to show appreciation to the guides and outfitters, and they've been some of the most loyal consumers of ours for so long. And I mean, I know it's a lot of people say this, but it is the least that we can do for what they do for us. And as far as providing high quality feedback on the gear, making it better, but also kind of showing us the ways of authenticity and what really goes on out here.
Do you guys ever see this expanding beyond just guides and outfitters to be more of like a rendezvous for the entire Sitka tribe? So even average or other serious hunters that are part of that Sitka community?
So truthfully,
I feel like that would be super cool.
Yeah. Probably not.
No?
This particular event is a guide and outfitter event. We would like to see this event continue to grow, and the goals for an event like this as the years come is going to be significant growth. But within the guide and outfitter community, what I could see happening is a regional Converge event that extends past guides and outfitters. Yeah. But we do it. This event, I believe, will always live as this event.
Yeah.
It might change locations every year. We might, I mean, there's been so much that's been talked about in the last day and a half. Just after the months of planning this thing, there's tons of things that we could do, and we have everybody is thinking of new ideas.
Yeah.
But I would say that we want to continue to show appreciation to these guys on a really, really high level, a really personal level, and then start hosting and Does Jason listen to this podcast? Is he one of your guys?
Which Jason are we talking about?
Michelati?
I'm not sure how often he might listen.
Okay. Well,
I would like to start. I don't use it.
Well, I would like to say that we start doing regional. Start doing regional converges is what I would like to see.
That's a cool idea.
As far as where this is going to go. Now, obviously there's more to it than just saying, let's go to Missouri and let's do a regional converge event. We should do that. Well, there's a lot more that goes into it, but
I could see. We're all, like Matt said, we'll always have this for guides and outfitters. But I would say I could see us having a rendezvous for general consumers, but that'd be separate. This is just such a core group of people.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, and we do. I mean, we've done events in the past that, like at SCI, and we host events at in PA at the Great American Outdoor Days, and we've done. We do all these events that are open to people, and we'll continue to advance those and get better at those, and we're learning a lot lately. So, looking at Lyle here, you need to get Lyle on here. He's the mastermind behind it all.
Yeah, he's the guy.
Yeah, he's the main man.
Quite the crew that puts us all on, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about a number of different things with you guys above and beyond just this stuff, because both of you have some interesting whitetail experiences to share, I think. Matt, you were on one of our Sitka stories like a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
But
not even a year ago.
Not even a year ago.
Yeah.
But we only got to hear like 1 minute of it. And I know that's a much longer story. So I want to pry that entire story out of you. I want to pry out a mule deer hunt story you told me, which is pretty epic. I want to hear about some of the more. I don't know what kind of juice you might have, Garrett, but I'm sure there's something I can embarrass you with.
Yeah, probably.
And also, Matt is a pretty darn good photographer. So I want to pick your brain a little bit about that. But first, I got to tell a story of my own. Because Matt got me in big trouble once, Garrett. I don't know if you know this, but he got me in a lot of trouble. I can't remember if I told this on the podcast or not. I might have briefly covered it, but all right. So I was out here whitetail hunting, and I killed my buck. I filled my tag. I came back into town, and it was kind of like a weird thing. Like I came back to town, dropped off my buck, and then I realized it'd be fun to just sit out in the woods some more. So then I drove back out like 2 hours away or wherever it was to go back, and I thought I'd stay out there for a few days and just scout. So I'm doing that, and then on a whim, I all of a sudden said, now I want to go fishing. Man, we got some serious wind, huh? So I want to do some fishing. So I had like a lot of changing plans, changing things around. So I ended up going to the Gallatin River there outside of Bozeman, and you don't need to worry about the wind. Well, it'll be okay. I'm going to go fishing. I show up at the river, and the drive from the public land that I hunt, there's no service. So I had no cell phone service that day in the morning. So I hadn't talked to my wife that day because I was driving, bad service. I figure I'll talk to her at some point today. So I hit to the river, I'm fishing, having a good time. Then Matt calls me. He's like, hey, you want to go fishing? I'm like, well, sure. I'm already fishing, but where do you want to go? And he's like, well, I got this such and such place. You should come. So now all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I got to go meet up with Matt. I go meet up with Matt, and we take off. Now it's like noon or something. Usually I talk to my wife maybe once a day when I'm on a trip like this. When I've got service, I'll check in and just say, hey, I'm all right. Yeah. Everything's good. Well, so far today I haven't, but it's still morning. It's afternoon. No big deal. But Matt takes me up into like the tiniest little backwoods canyon, middle of nowhere, to fish all day, and then he makes me hike like 4 miles down this river in the middle of nowhere to go try to find a cutthroat or whatever was that. What's cutties?
We caught some browns.
Browns. I don't remember. And there was no cell phone service up there. But
Montana.
Yeah. We were having so much fun fishing. We were having so much fun fishing, I wasn't thinking about it. So we're fishing, like 8 hours, 9 hours later.
Yeah.
We finally get done, we drive out, it's like 10 o'clock or something our Montana time.
We had some good fishing too.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was that was one of my favorite little fishing excursions because of where we're at. Like there's no other people out there.
Yeah.
We were all by ourselves. We'd waded way down this river, just kind of little water, picking little spots. And how about that dragonfly?
Yeah, that was wild. I haven't seen anything like that.
What was that?
That was
explain that.
That was just a hungry brown trout that was that came out of the water completely and ate this dragonfly.
Wow.
Like way out of the water.
Yeah, like
Wow.
a foot out of the water.
Yeah, you don't see
Hammered
that
thing.
every day.
No.
and then right
got
there
him.
at this place. So this dragonfly thing happens, and then Matt's like, "All right, right here, we're gonna catch a fish right here." So Matt strip. Oh, fish on! Pulls in this nice fish, and then we land his fish, take some pictures, and then he's like, "All right, this right here, like 10 yards over. There's gonna be another one there." And I'm strip. Wait for it. Bam! Boom! Hammer another one. Hoppers, right? We were catching on hoppers.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. Wow. Like right in that little couple minutes, 2 real nice fish right there, and the dragonfly incident. It was good.
It was cool.
It was real good.
And what about, I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Curious to know
where this is going.
I'm very
so as you
sitting
can
here
tell,
and
we were having a ton
I'm
of
almost
fun.
out of my seat.
Yeah,
you know?
we're having a good time. Everything's great. We finally get out of the canyon. We're driving down the road. I'm like, I'm going to check in with Kylie now. So I give her a call. She answers the phone. She's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "Oh, we just had fishing. We had a great time." And hammers the phone down, hangs up on me. I'm like, "What was that? What was that about?" And then I text her, and she's like, I haven't heard from you in like over 24 hours. Like your stuff, like you didn't check in with this. Her mom had kind of, I think, gotten her all worried because she called and couldn't get a hold of me forever. My buddies that were meeting me to elk hunt soon couldn't get a hold of me. No one was able to get a hold of me. Kylie was freaking out. Her mom, I think, got her even more freaked out. Told her she should call the police to check on me. So she called the cops. The cops went to where I was supposed to be. I wasn't where I was supposed to be. So now she's worried. I'm lost in the middle of Montana. Not picking up my phone for a day and a half. She was so mad at me, Garrett.
She was so mad. Imagine.
And what was even worse than how mad my wife was the fact that the whole time we're driving back and this is happening, Matt's just sitting next to me laughing his ass off. I mean, he just laughed and laughed. I'm like, dude, this is
because it wasn't him. Yeah.
I'm like, I am in such deep crap right now. And Matt's just,
Yeah.
It was brutal.
Right. That was awesome. I've never had an experience like that before.
The fishing or a wife mad like that?
Girlfriend, wife mad like that. You know, well, being in Montana, I mean, it's expected that you're not going to have service. You know, living the lifestyles that we live out here.
Yeah.
You know, there's very little service. I'm actually incredibly surprised that we have service here.
Yeah.
You know, and where we're at right now, and yeah, it's just kind of one of those things.
It was like an expectation thing. Like lots of times she knows I'm gonna be places where I'm not gonna have my cell or won't have service, and she's fine. Like, I'll be out elk hunting for 7-10 days, and she doesn't hear from me. That's fine. But I think I had set the precedent,
right?
That I'm checking in at basic general time every day,
and then
and then it didn't.
Yeah.
And then it was longer and longer
and dark.
And
late.
you know, I'm all by myself. I'm climbing 25 feet up in a tree. She's always worried about me falling out of a tree or something like that. So that's always on her mind. I think like then someone says, "Oh, well, this could happen, that could happen," and then it makes her worry more, and then it was a whole thing.
See,
We're over it now, but.
My wife would laugh at that because at our house, it's the other way around. So when I go out for long periods of time, my wife says, "Well, he's out of service." Right? Or even if that precedence is set, she's very optimistic, so she's never worried that I'm hurt. Where when she leaves, I'm the guy that, if I said call me at 10 o'clock by 10 o'clock at night, and it's 9:59 and she hasn't called yet. Yeah, people are. I started driving to Bozeman from Havre one time because I couldn't get a hold of her. Yeah, and then turns out she was just on a trail run.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't surprise me.
Just a little bit of a word.
New Garrett.
Just call me.
I mean, is it that hard to make the phone
hard.
call?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it goes. I learned that you have to set the expectations properly.
Yep.
I guess. Yep. And communicate when possible.
Yeah, I think for me it's just
lesson learned.
Camille does a lot of traveling too, so we are just hoping that we're good to go.
Yeah. Do you ever worry about Camille being more of a badass than you, Matt?
All the time.
Because I feel like that might be possible.
No, I think it is true. Actually, not possible.
Yeah. Matt's girlfriend, she's just a pretty much pro fly fishing superstar, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She's exactly that. She works for Yellow Dog, does a lot of travel, kind of does a lot of projects with Sims, does a lot of projects, with Yeti.
Awesome Yeti film she was in this year.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it's on the website now. It's kind of
what's it called? Is it Odd Man Out?
Odd Man Out, yeah. History Channel released it in last December,
Very cool.
and now eventually Yeti will officially release it. Probably wait for Alaska to kind of pick up here. Alaska's just getting going. Alaska fishing just getting going. So to stay relevant, I would say that probably wait another couple weeks, a month or so, and we'll probably release that. You could go see that along with a recent trip we did to Christmas Island.
Yeah,
there's
you guys doing some fun stuff. I walked into their house this spring, and I'm like, man, look at that buck on the wall. Oh, that's Camille's. I'm like, oh man, look at that grizzly bear on the wall. Oh yeah, that's Camille's. I feel like there's a lot of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Okay, real quick before we move on, we need to pause one more time for a big thanks to our partners at Whitetail Properties. And as I mentioned last week, over the past few years, we've had a number of Whitetail Properties land specialists on this podcast, and they were terrific episodes. Today, I just wanted to give one more plug for those interviews because they are so jam-packed with helpful whitetail knowledge. So when you're done listening to this, if you haven't yet heard them, check out episode number 46 with Dan Perez for some shed hunting talk, number 92 with Ben Harshine, where we talk about maps and using them to scout and figure out your property, number 98, again with Perez, when we talk about how regular people like you and me can go about trying to buy their first piece of hunting ground, episode number 111 with Jake Elinger, when we talk about small property hunting and habitat improvement tips, and in episode 119 with Tony Hansen, we talk about hunting in heavily pressured states like Michigan, Pennsylvania, etc. So great episodes. I think you will really enjoy them. And next week we will be back with our little short Whitetail Wisdom segments from Whitetail Properties. But until then, if you want to learn more about Whitetail Properties, you can visit whitetailproperties.com. And now back to the show. So, okay, tell us your glory whitetail story, though, Matt. You went on your first big Midwest whitetail hunt this past fall.
Yep, I did.
And
I was headed.
Like?
I was headed to, for those that have heard, I'll start from the beginning. I kind of.
Have you heard this, Garrett?
I haven't heard.
I met.
Man, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I met Donnie Wilson, who's been on here.
Yep.
From Ohio. I met him a few years back when we started the ambassador program. Donnie, great guy. If you follow him on Instagram, they shoot some big deer down there in Adams County.
Southern Ohio.
Yep. And, it was one of those things where he's like, I got Dennis coming out from Yeti. I got Derek coming out from
And anyone
Matthews.
listening, that's Dennis Zuck.
Yep.
He was on the podcast every week for like a year, giving us our little Sitka tips and insight into the new product and everything like that. So Zuck is like a friend to our audience. They've heard from him a lot.
Of course, yeah. So Zuck was there from Yeti. He works for Yeti now.
Yep.
Zuck was there. Derek was there from Matthews. And then Brad was there. He was newly Sitka guy.
Yep.
And Donnie's like, we got the whole place shut down. We're going to have these three guys come in. If you want to come, just get a plane ticket and come hang out. It would be great to have you in camp and just come spend some time. And, at the time I had nothing really going on that particular week. And so I was like, you know what? Sure, let's get this ticket booked and do it. And, side note, it was the first time I'd ever hung out with Brad Christian, who's, for those of you who may or may not know Brad, he's extremely stoic.
Yeah.
So he can be quite intimidating if you don't know him. Well, he's a new guy at Sitka. Me being in my role, you need to maintain relationships and stuff like that. And so I was a little bit nervous to go on this trip, not only because it was a whitetail trip,
And your background's waterfowl. Like you're a super crazy hardcore waterfowl guy.
Waterfowl hunter.
Yeah.
Last year was the first year I even started archery hunting.
Wow.
And shot my bow. We ended up getting lucky and stumbled into an antelope early on.
You had an epic season.
Yeah, an antelope early on and in August, and then in September we ended up, making that mule deer happen with the bow. It was really cool. So I had this streak going that was probably the worst thing that could have happened.
Who actually pulled the trigger on those animals?
My good buddy Jordan Gill, I gotta say. So back to the whitetail, it was a trip that I wanted to do, and I really wanted to scout it out for potentially my dad and I to go out there one day and spend some time in Ohio with Donnie and spend some time with the industry guys and just go whitetail hunting for a week. And it was the last week in October. Well, last year it was really warm and a big white oak year, so there's acorns everywhere. So the patterning was early on, it just wasn't happening. There's so much food, and the deer were kind of all over the place, and it was so warm. And I don't pretend to know really much of anything about whitetail hunting outside of the fact that I was going to Ohio, and I'm going with a guy that seems to have something figured out. Mm-hmm. And I was looking forward to learning. And my week was filled with a lot of deer activity. I saw a pre-rut activity. I passed on a 3-year-old that was. Donnie said that he would have been okay if I would have shot it. Like it was a good deer, but it was definitely a 3-year-old. And I passed on their superstar 2-year-old. I had him at 20 yards for. Pretty I don't
nice
even know buck. How. Oh yeah, just a beautiful 10.
Wow.
But he was 2.5, and there was one deer on the wall that they're like, this is the only deer that you come here, you shoot any deer you're happy with. There's no score limit or anything like that. There's no fee. It's just like, shoot a trophy for you.
Sure, it's awesome.
Except for this one. And it was this, just a beautiful 2-year-old, and he ended up coming right under me, eating acorns for 30 minutes or so with another deer, and wow. And that was really cool. I got some really cool video of him. I don't know if I've ever showed you those videos.
I haven't seen that. No.
So I had a lot of deer movement, but there was a couple really big deer that were on camera that they had kind of patterned, but it was like right in that transition period. It's the end of October, starting to cool down at night. There's definitely some movement happening, and we were trying to get. Brad was hunting this one specific deer the whole time. Dennis Zuck tagged out first day.
Yeah.
Yep, shot that really nice 9.
It's a great looking buck.
Yeah, like 156 or something. Yeah,
wow. Really
nice deer first day.
Way to start the trip.
Yeah, it was really cool. And so, we never had another encounter with with what any of us considered as shooters for the remainder of that trip. And so on the last day, we're seeing deer movement and stuff, but on the last day, it's just, we're looking at our, they got one of those big Huntera maps on the wall. We're just like, where do we want to go? What do we want to do? It's the last day, what do we want to do? And, Donnie mentioned something about in the back 40, it's 900 and, it's like just over 900 acre farm.
Wow.
It's like this back 40 that they never go in. He's like, I've only been in there once to hang this stand, and nobody's been in there yet this year. It's just really, really untouched. As we got to looking at it, it's just up the hill from where Brad was hunting. This deer was by himself hanging out, and I think, potentially card checking or, there's some bait that gets dumped in those areas, I think there was potentially some movement that was happening, from human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, they could have just popped up the hill and be going to a different food source. And this stand was located right in the middle of that. And so it was about a 2.5 mile hike from where we were at. And they didn't want to run a 4-wheeler out for me in the morning. I'm like, I'll just hike it.
A legit 2.5 mile hike in the morning.
Yeah,
that's a whitetail hike right there. That's a serious hike
because I had to go down.
That's a big hike for a waterfowl guy. Too.
Yeah, for one, especially an overweight one. And
yeah.
So, but it was because I had to go down. I had to work my way through and around to get, because of the way that the deer were moving at night. I couldn't walk through. There was a shorter route, but I couldn't walk it because of kind of the feeding different feeding
Didn't
areas
want you
and stuff like that.
Big food sources while they're out there.
Yeah. And sense. Even though we didn't figure that this particular deer was using any of them, you just
don't want to risk.
From what I understand, you don't want to risk anything. Yeah. If you can get in unnoticed and untouched. So
that's the way to do it.
I actually learned a lot about layering in that, which is a whole nother deal. But so I had a long hike, and I was pretty well stripped down for the hike. Made it in. Donnie did a absolutely horrible job of marking the trail and ended up getting lost on the way, so I had to backtrack through.
Oh my gosh.
Come back around. There was only, he uses those little clothespins with the reflectors on them.
Reflective tack type of thing or something. Yeah.
But it's like one every just out of reach, with the light. And I know that I'm close. Obviously, there's going to be deer around. I don't like the idea of just like shining your light all over.
Yeah.
I'm crashing through there. I actually made so much noise going in there that it was just ridiculous. I mean, there was down timber, there was brush. I went right through a briar patch, like a big bad one. It was just
that's the worst.
And I get to the stand and I'm sweated up.
What did you have on?
A lot.
Too much.
A lot.
Well, not really. I mean, I always wear merino base.
Yeah.
And then I had my Fanatic hoodie on, and I had it all unzipped, thinking that like I'm just gonna take my time. I left super early. Nobody was even awake when I left. It's like last day. I'm gonna sit all day.
Yeah.
Made some sandwiches. Like I'm going.
Yeah.
And that worked out. I thought it was gonna work out great, but I kind of got lost, so I got in a hurry, and then I had to climb this hill that I wasn't really sure how big it was gonna be. It turned out it was really big, and Adams County is filled with those big hills.
Oh, it's rugged country. It's rugged whitetail country.
And finally make it to the stand, find it, and sweating. I rip off a layer, get up in the tree, I thread everything onto the harness. I had Celsius Fanatic vest. That's what I like. I like going Celsius jacket, Fanatic vest.
Yeah.
I have everything on at this point because I got cold. So I got everything on. Starts getting light. I can hear some deer kind of moving around. And I have this doe walk. I can hear the neighbor's running a four-wheeler first thing in the morning. He must have been, I don't know if he was dropping clients or something like, I can hear him running. I'm like, we knew that I would need to be in before that happened.
Yeah.
And so I get this doe. I start seeing like movements coming from out in front, which is that additional food source that we were thinking.
Okay.
And here comes this doe, and she's coming right across in front of me. And I hear, and just walking real slow.
Gotta love that.
Bleeding.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Just like
something's
coming,
gets to happen.
Right underneath me. I'm thinking, I'm new to whitetail hunting. When I first heard it off in the distance, I'm like, that's got to be a buck, but it's weird. It's like a weird noise. Why would I mean, it sounds weird, but hey, deer's coming, and it sounds like it's getting closer. And so she walked right under me. The best part about this was thermals were coming up with like no wind, and so I was just, it had sprinkled, rained a little bit, and there was some water on the ground, so it was all coming up. So there was no way that anything could smell me any direction around me, which was really cool. And so she comes out in front.
And were you saying that she's making that like bleeding noise?
She's making that noise.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I follow you. Interesting. So she's
making just like a bleat.
Like a little bleat. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is happening, and now you're thinking, okay, is something gonna be following her?
Something's probably following her.
Hopefully.
But maybe not. And then I have this buck. He walks by, just in sight to my right, and he's going down the hill. I'm right on the edge. Of just like open and thick. I'm right on the edge. So my stand location is fairly thick. Donnie hadn't cut any lanes in it or anything. There was nothing. It was just
thick.
Just a tree stand. Lock on. So she comes through, buck walks by far right, and then I hear a grunt, and then it's like noticeably this is like a deeper, darker grunt. I can hear, I had heard grunts all week from these younger bucks pushing deer around. Definitely something coming. And then I see off to my front left coming at me, one single doe, and then another single doe, and then I hear it again, and it's back behind, and they're coming down a trail right at me. They're going to kind of quartering to me, and then this buck stands into this little opening at about 60 yards or so from me, and he stops, and he just stands there for like 10 minutes.
And your thoughts and heart are doing what at this point?
I immediately, so I saw this buck, and so I'm trying to.
That's about his reaction.
Yeah. So,
so these two deer are coming down this trail, and he steps into this opening, and all I see is just from the front shoulder forward. So he's got a big neck. He's standing very, very tall, and he's perpendicular to me, so I just see the side, and I instantly knew that it was the buck that we had seen on the trail cameras. It was the buck that we were chasing. Like, it was
That's awesome.
the buck.
Right.
Like, that was him. There was no question. I mean, he was beautiful, big deer, and he had very unique color to his rack that really stuck out. And he sat there for, I swear it was 10 minutes. They made it almost all the way to me from 60 yards on a trail, just, walking, before he even took another step.
Jeez.
And he's just watching, doing buck things, like whatever he's doing. And then finally he starts coming down the trail. And he's coming down the same trail that they're coming down. At this point, they're about 20 yards, but they're behind me, and I have this spruce tree that blocks me. So I can't shoot to the left of me, like back left of me. And this trail comes out back left of me. So they come down, and they're sitting right here behind the spruce tree at about 20. And he comes down, and there's one opening that I already pretty much ranged every little opening that I had, so I had a really good understanding of what everything was at, where everything was. My best angles were out to the front and front right. He was coming. There was only 2 spots that I could shoot on the left, and he was coming through it, and he started walking through it. I'm going to say, rookie whitetail hunter. He's coming down the trail, and I think I'm going to draw and shoot, like he's going to stop in one of these holes on the way in. And so I go to draw, and I can't draw. Like, I go to pull back, can't pull it back.
What
and
do
he
you mean?
walks through. Like
you
like
can't
I'm
physically?
gonna go. Like, I couldn't physically pull the bow back. He was walking, and he's gonna enter into this hole, and I'm like, well, if he stops in that hole, I need to be at full draw. And so I draw, and I could not make it happen.
Now, were you shaking like crazy?
I wasn't. No, I wasn't shaking really at all. I was just weak.
Well, okay.
I was just the entire
really.
For an overweight waterfowl. I guess that's to be expected.
That makes sense.
Exactly. And no, that's right. And so he walks through the hole, and I'm just like, okay. Not thinking that I totally missed my opportunity, because he walked right through, so it wouldn't have mattered. So he caught up to those 2 does. Those does are just feeding behind me at this point. They're at about 15, 20. And he comes up, and he starts pushing them around, and he's grunting at him and pushing them around, and he runs them back down the hill behind me. And they're like feeding back there, and I'm thinking, wow, what a really cool encounter. They're gone. But that was a really cool encounter. Even if I would have been able to pull my bow back, I didn't have a shot. There's no shot. And then I hear him messing around on the hill behind me, and then I hear a grunt, and then all of a sudden they're running. And they're running right at me. Both the does, and he's behind him, and he's got his head down, and he's pushing them. And I'm like, I got Brinker calling me. And I'm like, this is going to happen right now. He is pushing them as quickly as he can, and they're coming, and they split. And one goes to one side of the tree, and one goes to the other side of the tree. My tree.
The does split. Okay.
And he's behind him, and he follows the one coming out on my left. And so I draw, and she runs out into the opening.
And you got your bow back this time.
This time I had it back. Yep.
Good.
So
that is good.
Yeah,
it's a good step.
that's a good
step.
Good
one
step.
check.
Yeah.
So I draw back, and she's on a trail that's almost right under the stand, about 10 yards or whatever. It's like that. And she comes running out. I drew. She runs out, and he's right behind her. And I'm like, here we go. And then he stops, right behind the spruce tree, right on the edge.
Of course.
And I can see his face in the opening at 10 yards, but I cannot see anything else. Like, I can't, there's no shot. And he stops, she stops. So now she's at 10 yards kind of front left of me. He's just right there, and he kind of is looking around. He's kind of licking, and he like messing around on the ground, and he's just rubbing his antlers on things. Like, he was just doing buck things like right next to me. And I'm still at full draw, and she's here, and she kind of works out in front of me, and I'm bare bones right in front, like wide open. And out the corner of I'm just pretty fixated on him, and out of the corner of my eye, I see her doing the head bob. So she's
doing doe things now.
Got me. Like, she knows something's going on, right? She's looking at me, head bobbing at me, and this is, I mean, I feel like it was a couple minutes, you know, that this is like over the course of the, you know, these events, and she's doing this thing, and he looks up and notices her doing this thing, and so he knows something's going on. So the whole thing is
it's a mess.
Just going downhill very quickly. You know, we've reached the climax. Now we're leaving. So he starts walking backwards. He takes like 3 steps backwards, turns around, gets back to the trail he came in on, and starts heading back out the trail the exact way that he came in. And
are you still drawn back at this point?
Still drawn back at this point.
That's
I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
What else do you do?
You get let down.
Yeah, usually
the other option is let down.
Yeah.
But that's not smart. She still doesn't know what's going on. She's stomping her foot.
You're not fully busted. You're not fully busted yet, so you don't want to.
Right.
Yeah. All right. You did the right thing.
But I did level out, and she watched me level out. You know, because he's going back out on this trail, and I know that there's 1, 2 spots. If he stops in any one of those spots, like I know the range. It's 30 yards. It was like 27 to one, 30 to the other.
Okay.
He's going to walk through him. If he stops, I'm still going to have a chance at it. And he's walking without moving his head or neck or anything. It's like just his legs are moving, and he's just perfectly still, walking very, very slowly.
Huh.
And so he's retreating. She's still here, stomping her foot, and he's not looking at her or anything. He's just looking straight forward, just going. And he, wouldn't you guess it, stops right in the 30-yard hole. Stops right in it.
And
turns.
Just out of range for you then, right?
Yeah.
We told you we were going to roast.
Yeah. And he turns and looks back at her. And so I settle in. Everything looks right. I'm a little weak right now.
And
because
you've been holding it for...
I've been holding it the whole time, so I was definitely a little shaky.
Yeah.
But this was the opportunity that I had. I remember settling in, bubble, everything's good. Knew it was 30. Let it go. And it looks right. Like it's going, it looks extremely true. I have white fletchings. Watch it all. It's going extremely true. And then I hear this huge whack. And all I can think of, the immediate thing that took over my entire thoughts and everything was that I hit him in the shoulder.
Yeah.
I thought I hit him in the shoulder, which really gave me this overwhelming feeling of regret for taking the shot. You know, I just felt really bad about taking that shot. But it was the only shot I had, but it sounded like bone breaking. You know, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And he didn't flinch or anything, and he kind of took a couple bounds, like everything happened, and then looking back, there was a split second where he didn't move after I heard that noise. So he didn't really know what happened. Bounds off, and now he's stopped broadside at about 50. I got trees. He looks like a truck standing there. Like he's huge. Like the body of him was really big out in this little clearing.
Yeah.
I can't shoot. I got too much stuff. But I can see his side that I shot at, and it's perfectly clean, perfectly clear. And I realized that I must have missed. Like I must not have hit him, and I'm looking at him and looking at him. He's looking under me, but he's looking my direction. And he's perfectly clean. There's no blood, there's no arrow, there's no nothing, and he seems to be doing just fine. So she watches me shoot, she bounds off, gets to right next to him, and then she blows one time, and then he does this blow that was like a freight train. It was so loud. Like so much louder than any doe I've ever heard blow before in my life. It was so loud, and then he jumped up, did like a 90-degree turn in the air, and was gone, and all I just saw his flag.
That white flag.
Yep. And he was just like bounding away, like all fours. He looked like a mule deer bounding away.
Wow.
It was crazy.
So how did you feel after all that? I mean, your first serious close encounter, almost get to kill a giant whitetail.
I would imagine extremely bad.
Bad, yes,
Yeah.
that sounds likely. Describe
Terrible.
all the thoughts and feelings at this point. Take us into your misery.
What I should have done is I should have watched. So I Snapchatted this entire experience that I had afterwards. I don't remember you seen.
I don't remember if I did or not.
After this entire, what I did was I actually documented the entire experience via Snapchat from day one, and so all of those bucks.
What's
and
your
everything,
Snapchat name?
I think it's Matt McCormick 05, just like my Instagram account. It's pretty easy.
Well, there you go, folks.
And so,
little plug for you.
I Snapchatted that entire experience, and so I had a lot of deer. Anyways, it was I didn't start to shake until after he was gone, but I started to shake really bad then. I was feeling like I questioned a lot of things, like what did I do wrong?
Right.
It started out with what did I do wrong? Should I have waited to draw? What should I have done? And what happened with the arrow? I couldn't really figure it out. But what a cool experience, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm having this it was kind of emotional, but it wasn't. It was just a really, really cool experience. Except for I felt like I let the group down a little bit. I definitely felt that at some point during that whole thing that like we all came down here as this group and over the course of the week we became more of a team than a group of random guys. We became really good friends over the course of that week. And I felt like I may have let them down a little bit, so I was pretty bummed out about that. Just kind of not feeling real great about the whole situation and shaking.
Yeah.
That lasted for quite a while, like an hour or so, and I didn't see any deer for a while. And then I had some deer come through. I actually saw. I ended up seeing like 3 or 4 more bucks that day.
Wow.
I did sit there the whole day. But after and now, and even that day, even by the time I got over this, this feeling of whatever, I don't know what that feeling is. I'm sure you have a word for it.
Melancholy.
Sure, that. Yep. I think that I started to realize that was a really incredible experience.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I didn't have a whole lot invested. I had a week invested into that property. I didn't have a whole lot invested into that deer.
Mm-hmm.
It was virtually a guided, kind of like a guided type hunt. Donnie had something invested into that deer, so I felt kind of maybe like I let him down a little bit. But I personally had an experience with a deer on a property that I may never have an experience like that again.
Yeah.
And to have him in and around me for that long and watching him just interact at a, I grew up in Wisconsin. I've never seen a deer that's not running.
Right? Yeah, that sounds about right.
It looks like Converge out there, out in the deer woods out there sometimes, and
200 orange shirts, orange jackets.
Yeah, and it was really cool just to see not just a really big deer, but any buck that's having that type of interaction with the does at that time of the year.
That is super cool.
And it's kind of ending the trip, it's ending that week, and it just kind of was a really good wrap on the whole thing. And so thankfully I got the entire day. This happened within the first hour. I had the entire day to sit and think about it, decompress, and I had go through the roller coaster, and it was a really cool experience, man. I couldn't have painted a better picture, and that image of that buck when he first stepped into that opening was, I'll never forget that. Yeah. I had him closer than that. I remember bases, and I remembered that. That's what I remember seeing, Everything else I was fairly focused on just the body of the deer and, his movements. But him and I shared a really cool moment when he stepped into my set.
Yep.
And it's like he sensed something because he stood there for so long but he went ahead and moved on anyways and came in, and that was really cool.
That is cool. That is awesome. And I think that's one of the cool things about whitetail hunting is like you can have, I mean, obviously you have incredible experiences with animals when you're stalking mule deer or elk or something like that, but with whitetails it's a little bit different because usually you are a silent observer of their world and you're in it, but you're not like changing it, you're just observing and you got to be in the right place, and then they enter that, and then you have a strangely kind of intimate, like you said, some of these weird little moments with deer that are very, very cool, very powerful. Yeah. So, how do you feel about whitetail? Are you gonna do it again?
Yeah.
Do you have the bug?
I would say that I do have the bug, and that's why I'm not gonna hunt mule deer in Montana. But
probably gonna go to the range, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to go to the range. You spend more time at 30. You know. One thing that I do.
All.
Yeah. And one thing that I do need to do is, you know, when I did shoot my mule deer last year, it was at a really steep angle, but in Montana, we don't have, at our ranges, we don't have elevated shooting spots.
Right.
Much like in the Midwest, you have a lot of elevated shooting spots, so you can practice that way. We don't have that here, so we have to do makeshift ones off of rocks and stuff like that. So,
yeah, practicing the tree stand.
Yep.
Perspective is different.
Yep, it's definitely different, and no, it was great, and I've always thought I would like whitetail hunting, especially archery, but that was a really cool experience. It definitely pushed me over the edge on that, because I feel like that was such a unique experience, and I know that some people have experiences and encounters like that with big deer. You'll have to put the picture of the deer up or something like that.
Yeah, we'll definitely
I don't
post
even
a
want
picture.
to tell how big the deer was.
Yeah, well, a neighbor ended up shooting it, right? And it ended up being it was a booner, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like just over 170.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put a picture up.
Yes.
Matt,
He's
hey, you've been there too, Garrett, haven't you?
I don't really have any unsuccessful stories.
No unsuccessful. Okay, well, that was because it was Matt's only whitetail experience. That was probably his best whitetail experience. What's your most memorable whitetail experience or hunt? Do you have one that really stands out?
So I've been hunting whitetails for just over 10 years. And so, yeah, I have a lot of experiences. One that stands out the most, though, is hunting with my wife just this last year. And, you know, we got to sit in a double stand. It's a beautiful area right on the river bottom. And we knew all the trails, right? When a deer came to where the trails split, if it went a certain direction, we knew where they were going to be going. And so we get set up in the stand, and it's her first year bow hunting. And so I'm sitting there next to her, and these deer come down this trail, and they get to that split, you know, and they once they hit that split, they're coming right at us, right? And you know, if they take that trail, they're coming under our stand.
Yeah.
And I'm an emotional hunter, so I've been fortunate enough to hunt, like I said, whitetails for a long time. Every year, the first doe that comes down the trail, I shake. I sit there, you know, I start to shake and everything, and so I'm not even the one hunting, right? But I'm starting to shake, and you know, I'm nudging Jan. I'm like, here, it's coming, you know, and I can't even hardly talk.
Now, can I guess? You know? Can I guess? Like for me, like with me, like if I was with my wife, I'd be the one like freaking out, and then I look at her like thinking she's freaking out, and so she's like stone cold.
No, yeah.
Was that the same for you?
Yeah. So my wife she's kind of looking at me actually like I'm insane, right? And
why are you freaking out right now?
She's telling me to calm down. You know, she's like, you're an experienced hunter. Calm down.
Chill out.
You shouldn't be doing this. And so this deer comes in, and we had just decided, because of the way we had patterned these deer, 20 yards was going to be max. And you know, that wasn't going to be a problem. They come right underneath your stand in this spot. And so sure enough, here comes this doe. And she puts her head down, and I tell Jan, I said, okay, draw back, right? And Janet goes, I can't. And, you know, and like I said, I'm emotional, so I'm sitting there, and I go, what do you mean you can't? Why can't you draw? And she goes, there's this limb behind my arm. I can't draw back. And so I see what's going on. Well, where I'm sitting, I could draw back really easily. But, you know, my bow's hung up, so I'm like, I'm not gonna go down that route. I'm not gonna be that guy again.
Again? Sounds like there's another story.
I may have. Like I said, I'm an emotional hunter. Okay. So she's trying to draw back. She can't. And this doe at 15 yards beds down.
Wow.
So she's just hanging out right in front of us. So now not only can Jana draw back, but we can't pull the switch, right? We're just kind of stuck. So as this doe is bedded down, we have, I mean, it was no less than a dozen other does walk by. And we're just sitting and watching, which was really fun. And it allowed me to calm down. She was already fine. So finally they all kind of clear off and we pull the switch and I get on the other side of the stand and she now can draw and we're testing it and everything like that. And so the next doe is coming down and hits that mark. And I go, okay, you're good, you're ready, and I start doing the shake thing again, and I'm telling her, I'm like, Jenna, you ready, and she's like, yeah, I see it coming. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna come in, and she goes, yeah, I get it, it's gonna come in. And it's at about 25 yards, and I'm just like at this extreme intensity level, I'm just so excited. And she goes, Garrett, and I go, what? And she goes, do you think I should get my dog a different vest?
What?
And at that moment, I just started to laugh because she was so calm. And this doe comes in and, 20 yards, stands broadside. Jana draws back. Perfect shot. I think it ran like 40 yards maybe after that, right? But what was amazing to me with that was I was so intense. And when you hear of her say something like that, you think to yourself, was she there?
Right, was she totally outside of the experience or like?
But she wasn't. She was calm enough where she was just thinking as clearly as we are right here. And as she thinks back to that hunt, she talks about watching that doe and where it hit the split and how she thought, wow, this might happen. And then, there's not a person on this world that's more appreciative of. But it was so interesting for me because I'm used to being on this level of, like I said, I shake every single doe, and yet she was so calm, and that's her first deer.
Wow.
And that's amazing. I felt like I was with a professional hunter. That's just, this is beautiful. And so I'm inspired to try to reach the level where I can
be like your wife.
Daily.
How was she afterwards?
That, so that was what was interesting is when we got out of the stand, that was when all those emotions started to hit. And I've actually heard, I can't remember what hunter I was watching, but he talked about how he worked very hard on harnessing his emotions until after.
Yeah.
Make sure you do everything the right way, and then you can be emotional. And so that, I guess, what was even more inspirational was watching that to a T happen. Just very stoic, poised, and then we got out, and all the emotions rushed, and it was a beautiful doe. Walked up, and she was just so appreciative. You have different hunters out there, and watching her and how much she appreciated this animal, unbelievable for me.
How did it feel for you to see your wife? I mean, what was the emotional experience like for you?
Well, I mean,
after seeing her,
as I said, leading into it, I don't think you could have got a pulse on me. It was going that fast, and then when I watched her make such a great shot first, I have to say, that was surprising. You never should be surprised, but first animal, you're watching this and you're like, are you serious? Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then that's, I guess, so we were kind of like on opposite tracks there, and so when that happened, I all of a sudden really came down to base level, and just watching it for me, I that's where I was a lot more calm than she was, but just kind of marveled, honestly. You can't do anything else than that when you see somebody take their first animal. You're right next to them with a bow, and the level of poise that was demonstrated, but then the appreciation afterwards, I literally, I kind of stood back about 20 yards so she could walk up, and have that experience by herself, and just watching her, that was really inspirational, honestly. It really was.
That's cool.
And she didn't miss, like, some other people out there. So
she did well. You might be served, Matt, to hang out with her a little bit.
Yeah.
Her and Camille both.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Man, well, that's good stuff.
That's really
awesome.
cool.
I mean, both of these stories are perfect examples of why any kind of hunting is just such a powerful experience.
Yeah.
Whether it be a solo encounter with an animal or sharing a special moment like that with a loved one, and with an animal. I mean, that's a pretty profound, and we're just very lucky we'll do it. We're very fortunate. Different than anyone else, anyone hiking or bird watching or camping. We get to not only observe, but we get to participate in that process. That's pretty special.
It's cool.
Yeah.
So I like being a hunter.
I love being a hunter.
I don't know about you guys.
Seriously. It runs our lives.
Yes, it does. So Garrett, conservation professional. Matt, photography professional. I want a little bit of advice from both of you on those two topics. So for our listeners, if they are looking to take their photo game to the next level a little bit, Matt, any basic gear recommendations? And then any basic like technique or things to think about when taking shots, whether it be just like scenery shots or maybe a harvest photo. I guess gear, any gear thoughts, things to think about?
Yeah, the biggest thing is to ask yourself, what do you want out of it? What do you want to get out of the photos that you're taking? Do you want to remember experiences? Do you want it to be really beautiful? Do you want to share those experiences? How are you going to, what are you going to do with the imagery? Is it just going to go up on Instagram, or are you going to print some photos, or are you going to, build calendars for your moms and grandmas for Christmas? What are you going to do with the imagery? And kind of work backwards from there. Okay. In my opinion, you can spend as much or as little as you want on photography gear. It is a never-ending investment. And what I will say is that there is some basic things that you need, and what you need to decide if you want a mirrorless or a DSLR. So you'd start there. There's pros and cons to both, and you can read lots and lots of articles about them.
Is there like a 5-second summary you can give of each as to pros cons at a very, very high level?
I mean,
dumb it down as much as you got.
It gets into you get into a lot of technical stuff. It's pretty cool. We got people showing up here, so
nice.
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
The really quick rundown of it is going to be weight. Is a big thing. So when you're looking at pro photographers, if they're using it based on weight, image quality is actually really close to the same. But they have their own lenses. Mirrorless has their own lenses. DSLRs have their own lenses. DSLRs are, in my opinion, faster. They're, you can argue it. You can put photos next to each other, and they look almost the same. It's really tough to tell. There is some cons. But really, you need. I don't like to get into them because it's like a really.
You're saying there's gonna be like people jumping on you.
It's sensitive.
Well, what do you shoot?
Mirrorless people are really sensitive because it's the new thing.
Okay.
It's like it's fairly new. It's fairly new to this game.
Yeah.
So, what I'll say is that you need to just choose what's right for you, and then kind of go from there. So picking a good solid body. But really focusing on, in my opinion, on the lenses. The lenses are what make the difference, what truly make the difference. If you buy a $600 camera body and you put a $2,000 lens on it, it's gonna look really good. Is it gonna look better if you put a $3,000 body on it? Of course it is, but it's gonna look really good because the glass is really good. So investing in glass is what I would say.
Okay.
You can buy really good lenses for $500-$600. I shoot Canon DSLRs and I shoot Canon lenses, and You can get some really good stuff up there. All of their L series lenses are great. A really great all-around lens is 17-40. L series 4.0. It's affordable, it's a workhorse, and it takes really beautiful photos.
Awesome.
If you wanted to, step up your game and start taking just more beautiful images in general, outside of the shoot at the first hour and the last hour of the day, which, we've talked about, this doesn't happen. All the moments in the world don't happen in the first or last hour of the day. So you got to figure out how to take photos at every other time of the day. Is really just changing the perspective. What are you trying to capture? If you're trying to capture a kill shot, or you're trying to capture a wildlife shot, or whatever it may be, just change the perspective. Look at the frame as a whole, and really try to figure out what you want to do with it. Oftentimes you have a little bit of time to figure out and frame it up, and one big thing, making sure the horizon is straight. Nothing bugs me more than seeing photos where the horizon's not straight.
Yeah, lines matter.
They do matter. Yep. And the horizon is for the most part always straight. So in our everyday life.
Yeah.
So keeping it very simple, creating your own style, whether that be low angles or whether that be, wide angles or telephoto, really compressed angles. It's kind of up to you. What do you like? What do you feel most comfortable with? If you look at a lot of my photos, my subject is on the left side of the frame. So I shoot with my right eye. I look across. My subject is almost always on the left side of the frame.
Interesting.
Because it's the most comfortable for me, so I frame it that way because I'm looking across. If I try to look to the right with my right eye, it's harder than looking left.
Interesting.
And so, figuring out what works best for you, and then just rolling with it. Use tripod is definitely something that people always try to handheld everything. Now, as you create a steady hand, you can start hand holding more and more. Don't be afraid to use a tripod or monopod or whatever, just to add stability. Learning ISO and its effects on the image, and how you can manipulate basically artificial light, how you can use artificial light to make the camera think there's something going on that's not. Understanding that. And then the last thing that I would say is photo editing, and understanding the basics for photo editing is going to take your images to a whole new level. You look at any of these pro photographers, anybody on Instagram that you follow that you're considering as a pro, they're not taking photos directly from their camera and putting them on Instagram.
Right.
I don't care what they tell you. They're not doing it. They're editing photos. They're at least flattening them, or they're adding a little bit of something, whether it's sharpness, or they're dehazing it, or they're, bringing up the shadows a little bit so that adds a little detail, or, whatever the case may be. These images, you can buy the best cameras out there, and they don't look like that coming out of the camera.
They just happen by accident.
Only they do, but only very, very rarely do they. So for photography, I would say that's, those are some main tips, some main pointers for
good stuff.
I hope so. There's so much to it.
Right.
There's so much to it, and really it's a matter of shooting and never stop learning. And never stop practicing with stuff. And so if you want to take a really cool cool kill photo, try some different stuff. I mean, you have time.
Right. Don't do the same old and just leave it at that.
Try some different stuff. Put on a wide angle or something like that, and kind of mess around with it. Put on a telephoto and step back and just see what it's like, and just mess around and know that you're not in a hurry. And photography is meant to be fun, and platforms like Instagram have made it really fun. And don't be afraid to share the photos that you're taking, and get feedback from people. Though people definitely aren't afraid to give feedback. So
So where can people see some of your photography? right now?
The truth is, the best place to see my photography is on is on my Instagram account, or troll the Sitka accounts. You can always do that. Or Yeti does some stuff, but for the most part, where you can see kind of updated stuff of mine is on my Instagram account, which is Matt McCormick 05.
There you go.
Yep.
Or pick up a copy of a recent magazine.
Yeah, there's been a couple magazines. The last 2 Wildfowl magazines have had some
cover.
stuff. Had a cover shot this last month.
Pretty sweet.
Yep. There's a whitetail. I actually have a whitetail photo essay coming out in Gray Sporting Journal next month. Yeah, there's a little bit everywhere right now,
Very
which
cool.
has been I've been really fortunate to meet a lot of the right people at the right time, and they're helping me get the content out there. So
That's awesome.
yeah, man.
Well, what about you, Garrett? From a conservation standpoint, do you either have some advice as far as how people can get involved, or do you want to leave anyone with some wisdom there?
I think involvement is pretty easy to find, and we have gateways through Wild Sheep, things like that, where there's experts that can really help you get involved. I think the big thing for hunters to really recognize is that every public interaction you have could potentially be the first time a non-hunter is introduced to hunting.
Yeah.
Not an anti-hunter, obviously, because that would imply that they've already had some kind of interaction with hunting, but a non-hunter. So you are either potentially swaying them one way or another on this idea of hunting. And with that, we see things, because of us being so close to it, the culmination is always going to be, kill shots, right? But there's so much more than that. And if you are a non-hunter and you want to know what this hunting thing is about, and that's what you see on the highlight reel, or that's all anybody talks about, that's their perspective. That's their entire perspective of hunting. And what I like to think about a lot, and actually Mr. Mahoney was talking to me about this, is nobody questions how a shepherd loves his sheep. But why does he raise his sheep? Well, eventually they're going to be food. Much in the way that we do for hunting. And we care for those animals much in the same way. We might not stand there and move them from pasture to pasture, but our compassion and passion for those animals is just as high. And why, as hunters, have we not painted that as the picture? And it's because of highlight reels of kill shots. I mean, really, it really comes down to that. And so I would say, if I was a hunter listening to this, just take it from a perspective. You don't have to take it from a perspective of an anti-hunter, because sometimes that can be pretty difficult.
Right.
We're too close to it. But take it from the perspective if you have never seen this before and what that means.
Yeah, what does this communicate to that person?
Yeah. And there's a lot of people, I think, on all sides of life that say, well, I don't really care what they think. But the reality is you have to start.
Yeah.
We all have to start.
Because the majority, the 95% of other people in this country that don't hunt, they have the voting power and all that that will determine the future of what we can or cannot do.
Absolutely.
Whether you like it or not. Like you said, I mean, you don't have to like it, but from a pragmatic standpoint, realize that's just a reality.
Yeah.
If we want to be able to keep doing this, we need to listen to what you just said.
Yeah. And so that would be my biggest thing. At moving forward for hunters, we all have to work at that. TV has to work at that. Unfortunately, in the last 25 years, TV kind of did a terrible job of depicting what we do out here. They don't show Matt's experience the way he described it.
Yeah.
They just show the end, and that's important, but it's not what it's all about. And I think it depicts it doesn't clearly depict our lifestyle as well. Being a hunter isn't going out and killing things. Being a hunter, we always say it, it's a cliche, but that kind of defines you. For how you live your life. And I think that we need to start telling that story.
Yeah.
Rather than just the end of it.
And I think, in addition to that, back to your job, is that not only we need to tell that story, and a big part of that story should be what we're doing as conservationists. Mm-hmm. Because we always like to tout, hunters are the greatest conservationists. Right. All of our tax dollars go to pay for all this stuff, which is true, and it's all great and good. But if you're not actually walking the talk, too, and actually doing more than just buying your ammo and saying that's conservation, we need to do more than that.
It goes beyond punching a tag, right?
Mm-hmm. We need to do more than that, and then communicate that as well.
Yeah.
Because I think action speaks very loudly, and if I think non-hunters see, not only are we doing things with respect, but then they also understand that we are also compassionate. We are also working to protect these things, not just saying it, not just pointing at our taxes, blah blah, but actually doing things that show that care. Then that speaks loudly.
One thing that really works for me, and I would do it if I had a pen and paper here, in every interaction I have that involves conservation, I draw up a little Venn diagram, because in order for it to work, it has to have three basic components. You have access, a sense of ownership, which would be hunting, and then fiscal funds / political will. Usually they kind of go hand in hand, right? And if you take away any of those three, nearly every time it won't work on a grand scale. You can maybe have a park on a very micro scale, but on the grand scale it won't work. And because if you take away somebody's access to that enjoyment, we like to think as human beings we're all great human beings, but you usually don't care about it as much, right? If you can't access it. Sense of ownership goes to hunting. We like to say hunters are the best conservationists. Well, why is that? Well, we're willing to invest in that animal far beyond what the general public is willing to do. You go to a Wild Sheep Foundation banquet and ask who all there has been able to harvest the sheep. Usually it's 75% of the people there have not.
Wow.
But yet they're spending thousands of dollars on sheep habitat. And that connection you have is extremely valuable. And then obviously you have to have the funding, but usually it comes hand in hand with that connection and the access. Yeah. So if I was to give advice for anybody that's wanting to get involved or help make decisions out there, I would say, jot down that little Venn diagram. And if it falls into those, it's generally going to work out. But if you're missing any one of those, it's not. It's just not.
Yeah. So. Well, I think we got some good stuff here today, gentlemen. This is great. Good. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
A lot of fun.
It's been really great.
Matt, you got to plug your Instagram account and Snapchat. Is there anything you want to mention, Garrett, whether it be from a personal standpoint or Sitka standpoint?
I don't. I think this is just a blast for me.
Yeah.
I get to talk to Matt way too much anyways, but having somebody else around is really nice.
I'm glad I could break up the monotony for you.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you
very
again.
much.
This has been a lot of fun, and on to the rest of the Converge event.
Thank you.
And that is it, folks. As usual, you've heard me say it a million times, but I'm going to keep at it. If you can leave a rating or review for this podcast on iTunes, it's a huge help. And if you enjoy the show, another way you can support the podcast is to send a message or a tweet or an email to our sponsors and let them know that you appreciate them supporting the podcast. That would be awesome. And speaking of, big thanks to Sitka Gear, Yeti Coolers, Matthews Archery, Maven Optics, Whitetail Institute of North America, Trophy Ridge, and Huntera Maps. And of course, thank you all for listening. Have an awesome rest of your day. Get to work on those whitetail projects and stay wired to hunt.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.